start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jules.
I'm here too, so actually.
No, you got an agenda here?
I think they were all on the table.
Oh, they're all at the
I forgot
table.
to
Here.
grab one. Can you grab one for me too, please?
Yep, I will. Here you go.
Oh, thanks.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, the first order of business is election of chairperson.
I'll make a motion to elect Dean Dobbertin, chairperson of the 2016 Merton Community School District Annual Meeting and Budget Hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. And you can vote also?
Aye.
I mean, just want to make sure.
So you and I get to vote tonight.
So, okay, we are going to do the budget hearing.
So let's
Yeah,
come this way.
I just gave you guys a copy of the budget adoption that was published in the paper. The one in the paper is shorter, that one's the long version. Sign this up. All right, so welcome to the budget hearing. I wanted to go over with you guys quickly just so you have an idea or a reminder of what the development timeline is for our budget. So from December, starting in December of 2015 through March of 2016, really working on gathering estimates, whether it's a district estimate or estimates coming from the state to start building the initial budget for the 16-17 school year. And in April 2016, I presented the preliminary budget to you, which is the exact same budget that you're going to see tonight at the meeting. In May, we approved that preliminary budget, and then that brings us to now for the annual meeting. And budget hearing this Friday is our third Friday count, which is one of the biggest numbers and most important numbers that we'll get in the budget development process and to kind of wrap everything up. And then I'm meeting with Finance Committee on Monday, so I'll have even more updates for you, and then I'll bring those to the board at the end of September. And then October 1st, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue certifies our property values. On the 15th, we get our final aid certification from DPI, and then on the 24th, we will certify our levies, and that'll wrap up the 2016-17 budget. So our biggest budget factors for 16-17, obviously we have continued declining enrollment. Our state aid allocation continues to decline, and our property values continue to increase. But, I mean, all said and done, we're in a really good financial position. I'm confident that with our plans that we have in place, we'll be good year after year. So just an overview of what our budget looks like by fund. General fund, roughly 9.1 million. Fund 27, our special education fund, 1.2 million. We don't have any non-referendum debt. Our referendum debt in Fund 39, about 433,000. Fund 41, 200,000. Fund 50, which is our food service, 272,000. Our other post-employment benefits, which is Fund 73, 39,000, and we do not levy anything or have any expenses in community service. And I apologize, this is really small. I like days better where I have the red light. So this is just a breakdown of what our expenditures look like for our budget. This is just general fund expenditures. You guys are used to seeing and you know that our biggest expenditures that make up our budget are our salaries and benefits. So if you look at the graph on the right, the breakout of that, about 70% is salaries and the rest, the additional 30% is made up of benefits. Our other expenditures, utilities, open enrollment is a larger expenditure for us, and then the expenditures that fall into other are just district dues and fees, any memberships that we provide for either our staff or just our district dues and fees. Here's the same breakdown for our general fund revenues. As you can see, we've talked about it year after year. The tax levy in the blue, the 43%, and then the equalization aid, the 43.5, I believe that says. Those are our two biggest revenue streams, and they're really starting to even out. And we'll continue to see that shift where more of the burden falls onto the taxpayers as opposed to the revenue from state aid. And then our other state revenue comes from our per pupil aid, common school fund, which goes to fund library purchases. Our transportation aid, federal revenue comes from some title funds that we receive. And then we also are still going to be receiving, obviously, the farm lease, some focus on energy, and then some summer school revenue. So this just shows the history of our state aid versus the tax levy revenue that we receive. So you can see the shift starting in 2011. The gap was pretty big between state aid and tax levy, but then you can see in 2015, that's where, actually 2014, and then in 2015, where the tax revenue really started creeping up. And then 2016, if you remember back to the original budget presentation in April, where I told you that we're in a little bit of a different scenario than normal just because of the rate that we're declining enrollment. Those declining enrollment exemptions offset the fact that we were losing state aid. So that's why our tax levy revenue is less instead of more. And then here's just a summary, I guess, of our tax levy history. So you can see over the last 3 years what we've done in each fund. Fund 41, we're continuing to plug in $200,000. So at the end of 16-17, we'll have $800,000 in our available to us to use for capital projects. So our total levy is looking to increase by about 4.6%, and then we're estimating a 3% increase in property values. So if you put that all together, we're looking at a decrease in our mill rate of about 7.4%. And then these are the 4 municipalities that make up or fall inside of the Merton Community School District. So this 7.44% is not going to be the same for every municipality and every taxpayer, just because it all is dependent on what their municipality that they live in, what they make up of the percentage of the equalized values. And then here's just a comparison of how we compare to the other K-8s as far as mill rates go. So we're the first one. So you can see that we've been declining our mill rate every single year for the past 3 years. But all the K-8s are kind of doing the same with the exception of Swallow and Richmond. Those are the only two. Swallow is predicting that they're going to stay flat. And Richmond is projecting a little bit of an increase in their mill rate. Our debt service, as you know, our debt falls off after 17-18, so we will be debt-free. So looking to the future, we will see an even larger decrease in our mill rate if we choose to do nothing. So, yeah. And this is just a history of our fund balance. So obviously we came in with a little bit more of a surplus than we had anticipated for the end of 15-16. So that's why you see the number from 15 to 16 jump up. And then for the end of 2016-17, the estimated number, I'm estimating about $2.3 million, just because we are budgeting to use $128,000 of our fund balance for facility use. And then the plan is to also use roughly right now, it's not a final number because my audit isn't finalized yet, but it'll be around $170,000 that we have in surplus. So the plan would be to turn around and use that money as well, just to keep our fund balance percentage down. Right now we're at about 25% if we leave everything as is. So if we take that, spend the 128 plus the 170, that'd bring us back down to about 23. And then this is just a look at our membership. I took the history back to 2008 and 9. We're projecting, as far as FTE, we're projecting about 814 FTE. Obviously, like I said earlier, we don't have our final number yet. So that's why if you look at the graph on the bottom, that's taken from DPI. It's just a membership survey based on FTE. So it's 14-15 data, but that affects the 15-16 aid year. So obviously you can see we're in declining enrollment period and we will continue to decline over the next few years, unfortunately. As I mentioned before, we're missing 3 huge factors, the biggest one being membership. So this Friday, we have our 3rd Friday count. That obviously has a huge impact on our revenue limit. It goes into a 3-year rolling average. And then it will also affect the amount of property tax revenue that we will receive. And then October 1st, we receive our property values. And then October 15th, like I said earlier, we will find out what our final aid number is from the state. And then this, later in the meeting, you'll have to approve a Fund 73 report, so this is that report. So right now, our unaudited numbers are just to the right, and then the 2016-17 budgeted numbers are a lot smaller. That's a good thing because we're working on spending that down. Our final retirees fall off in, I believe, in 2021. So by 2021, we have to have them completely spent down. Oh, yes, we don't offer any more retirement benefits, so the retirees that are in here right now got something that no one else is currently getting and can't get anymore, so that's why we don't have to continue to budget more and more money, it's just spending it down. Any questions?
I guess my only comment would be, Sarah, can you go back to the mill rate? Mill rate statement, the comparisons.
This one?
Nope, the mill rate comparisons amongst the districts. We still are the lowest per pupil spending of all the K-8 school districts, and we are the 2nd lowest in Waukesha County. So remember, the mill rate is not equal per pupil spending. The mill rate is just basically the number of students you have equated to how much property you have, and then that it gets shared out that way. So still continue to show that really strong fiscal leadership and responsibility, even though our mill rate is the 3rd lowest, yet we are the lowest per pupil spending of the K-8s. Providing great education.
On the DPI projections, do they know, we have an idea when that might level out?
As far as the state aid?
As far as the number of people.
Enrollment. Show that enrollment graph.
That one, yeah.
This one?
And longitudinal survey membership.
You know, Jewel, that's a really good question.
Yeah, so the graph on the bottom, they just take that from all the reports that school districts submit. So it's all based off of information that we're providing to them. And they just compile everything really nicely for us. So, I mean, DPI can't and will never be able to control our membership. It's just...
So Jewel, to answer your question, when do we think it's going to start to level off or start to kind of increase?
Yeah.
We're not quite sure when that's going to happen. Obviously, we've got a tremendous amount of building that's going on that we hope that it attracts, continues to attract families in. The big thing we still see, like this year, our membership count, we sent 116 to Arrowhead and we replaced them with 72. Next year, same thing, we're going to send 104, 105 to Arrowhead, we will replace them with 70. So right now we continue to we're preparing for steady to decline because we know it's going to start to level off when our big classes begin to just exit and we continue to get those consistent classes of 75 or 80. It's tough to say. It's tough to say. I mean, there are enrollment projections. You can pay people a lot of money to do that. You can look 5-10 years out. Basically, we continue to be really proactive with what we can in our Baird models. Basically, we really can start to play with that about how we prepare for the future, given plugging different scenarios and steady enrollment. What happens if we all of a sudden get an acceleration of growth into the district with small children or any school-age children? What does that mean? So I would recommend, and I think a lot of people are getting away from membership studies because the accuracy of them hasn't proven to be super reliable. And there's actually financial models that can help you prepare for all that. So the finance people of Baird, and there's another one out there, what's that called? PMA, right, yeah, but we use the Baird model to help us with some of those projections. So we can play with all sorts of numbers.
Okay.
and that we do utilize the projections and the bear model, so
Every day almost.
it's fun to play.
Is there any information on the web on the third one? I mean, is there a website or?
They do, but it's,
You're not gonna find anything on there about it.
no, it's a proprietary thing. We pay every year $3,400 to $2,250, thank you, for that service, which is great. It is great.
All right.
But you can, Sarah can show you sometime if you wanted to.
The fund balance is not inclusive of the 600 that's currently in.
The fund balance graph, that's just general fund
Right.
that I included. Yep, so that is, so we have, like I said earlier, we'll have at the end of 800,000, and then we have another 270,000 sitting in Fund 46. So over $1 million available to us for capital projects whenever that need arises.
I think one thing that taxpayers of the whole Arrowhead district, all the feeder schools are feeling this
Yep.
declining enrollment. That's gonna catch up to Arrowhead real
Yep.
quick. Because, you know, our big classes are dwindling down now, and Arrowhead's gonna see this, what we've seen in a few years. And I think that's something that we as taxpayers need to remind the Arrowhead School District that they've got some shortfalls coming.
Yeah, I would say all, like you said, kids are in the same situation, declining enrollment and increasing property values.
What about with North Lake? Remember we once talked that maybe they may eventually have to close because their enrollment is going down?
No, it's,
We might absorb that?
that would be a conversation with both school boards about when we start talking about consolidation pieces into that. That may be something that as we continue to see these small and as class sizes, whether it be, you know, in North Lake, we understand they're down to one section, basically. You know, the Swallows of the world are down, they used to be 50, now they're 30, you know, so everybody's feeling the pinch, and Arrowhead, we hear conversations from the administrative level, you know, hey, what's going on here, and things like that. But that may be some future conversations that our board may want to begin to talk about again, or again, no one from North Lake has reached out to me either, so. But consolidation and shared services continue to be something that we continue to explore in a lot of different avenues. We're open to shared services if it makes sense to us. Maybe we bring those to the board.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Great, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, this is really exciting. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought on 170, please. 170, we just so excited.
All right. I think we got to come back to the table. So we can do everything from the seats to it. We're all equal. We are equal. At least most.
Okay, that concludes the budget hearing, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Looks like it's about 10 minutes to 8. And we've got the 2015 annual meeting minutes. We could motion
I'll
to.
move to dispense with the reading of the meeting minutes of Monday, September 14, 2015.
I'll second. I'll second.
We have motion and discussion. Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. We are on to the district administrator's report, state of the district message.
All right. So come on over here again. Getting our exercise. That's for sure. So again, the purpose of this part of the presentation is to really kind of inform everybody in our audience that just some of the things that we want to highlight the year that has been. What are we looking forward to this year, and ultimately what are we looking beyond to as well? Obviously we've talked about the finances. That is just one aspect of a lot about what we do. We've got student achievement, obviously engagement, which is the top of our list. We've got facilities, we've got finances, and then ultimately how do we treat people? What's our workforce development? And funneling into employee benefits and compensation and things like that. From there, we'll talk about what we want to do this upcoming year, the 16-17, and then talk about the challenges. I know Sarah's talked a lot about them, and from the fiscal side, we'll start talking about some of the other things that we are facing as well. So ultimately, we are about student achievement, and this past year we had our first forward exam, which was really the first big snapshot of a state assessment that we really participated in. Those scores have not been released yet. As a school district, we will continue to dig, always looking for improvement. You've got to have one starting point and then moving forward. But understand that that is just one measure. We also take a look at MAPS, Measure of Academic Progress, which measures growth of a child from fall to spring on basically a universal metric. Fonda and Pinnell reading assessments. Okay, again, tracking progress. We are about growth as well as achievement, trying to benchmark as we look at college and career readiness. Early literacy assessments. This year, the state of Wisconsin has said to each school district, you don't need to administer the PALS assessment. So each school district across the state of Wisconsin got a chance to decide what is it that they want to implement. We are implementing something a little bit different. At 5K, we're implementing PALS, but at first grade and second grade, we are using the Words Their Way, which is our spelling as well as phonics program that we help to identify some of those things that the state is identifying as crucial components to early literacy. And 4K2 as well, there's an acronym. We use a program that's, I can't recall it right now, but there's a fancy acronym like everything in education as we move forward here too as well. So lots of things, and then ultimately we also are still continue to dedicate time aside from a K through 8 level to really focus on personalizing the literacy environment and taking a look at our kids who need a little extra support, all the way from the kids who need those enrichment exercises to continue to push so we can continue to push our high-end learners as well. A couple real exciting things that we really try to really focus in on. In the last couple of years, we've really been working on our STEM program. Phil, thank you very much for being integral and part of our science adoption. But we are thrilled to say that we are now officially a Project Lead the Way school, all the way from 5K through 8. About 4 years ago, we brought in the Gateway program. That is a 6-8 STEM program from the Project Lead the Way, which is aligned to MSOE, all sorts of other universities, and also stems right into Arrowhead STEM program because they do the Project Lead the Way program up there at the high level. As well as our science and STEM, we also have obviously a whole new K-8 science program this upcoming year too as well. Utilizing technology to personalize an environment. We know that all kids are different, and we've gotten away from the basal readers and gotten into what each child needs right now, skill by skill, child by child. So by utilizing technology and allocating time to do so, it allows us to meet the needs of all of our learners. In literacy, we've got MobiMax, Raz Kids, A to Z, Head Sprout, all sorts of different things that we use technology-wise given our one-to-one environment from a 3 through 8 level. When we start talking about mathematics, Dreambox, 10 marks, which basically takes kids from where they are at, or we can assign specific playlists to really get them engaged in what we are doing on a day in and day out level. Another big indicator for the board, obviously, has been to maintain class size. Okay, from a 4K through 3 level, we are under 20, with 4K being 20, and from a 5K through 3rd grade being basically we're 18 and under. 4th grade, literacy and math are all under 25, 4th through 8th grade, which is more like being 20, 21 from those upper levels too as well. And right now with social studies and science, our largest class is right around 27 for our social studies and science in those non-literacy and mathematics area. Another key engagement factor that we are really, really proud of is our open enrollment numbers. We continue to widen the gap between students who leave us and students who come to us in the open enrollment framework, which is a great revenue maker for us. But ultimately, we take a look at what we can control. And out of approximately 800 students who could return back to us this year, we lost 4 of them to other public schools. Very excited about that number, that's for sure. So when we start talking about achievement, this year we are really going to really drive focus down into really 4 key questions. And we're going to ask of each content area to really start to think about what are those essential skills, to continue to and really articulate what are those essential skills that in every unit we want every student to learn. And once we have those essential learning, now Believe me, we've got standards, we've got curriculum and things like that. But all of us remember, if we open up a math book or open up the literacy unit, there's a whole bunch in there. What are those really true factors that we want to make sure that kids leave before they go to the next unit, before they go to the next grade level, to really clearly articulate those? We have those articulated in mathematics very, very clearly, all the way from basic facts to those algebraic concepts up into 8th grade. For literacy, our coaches and our teams are really going to be focusing in on what are the 6 to 7 skills that every kid needs to learn before they move to the next unit. And then ultimately, how do we assess that? And we're going to assess that in a common formative way, which means every teacher, if I've got 5 teachers, every teacher will be giving common, frequent, formative assessments moving forward to make sure that we progress monitor our children through, but ultimately gauge our instruction and how we are doing. And ultimately that becomes a results-oriented business. Because once you look at the results, then you can find what are we going to do if they don't know it, what kind of supports and interventions might they need, or they already know it, what kind of enrichment activities do we need to offer our kids from that standpoint too. So we're going to start to kind of use these professional learning community type questions to really drive a lot of our collaborative conversations moving forward here. So for the achievement side, we continue to dive deep. We are not satisfied. In a little bit, our forward exam will be released publicly. Tomorrow, we're going to have a data day with our staff, and we're going to dig deep because we want to keep improving those because that's the most public thing we do. The best thing what we do, though, outside of our student achievement is our kids love school. Like Jules said, they're getting an awesome education. We want to make sure that awesome education is not just about them liking school and parents really making sure that they feel really safe and secure and ultimately loved at school, but we want to continue to raise that achievement up. And that achievement is measured in a couple different areas like we've talked about before. Then we think about facilities. And one of the things that obviously we've spent a tremendous amount of time too over the last couple of years is making sure that our facilities are in great shape because this is the largest investment of our community. As a board, and Julie, you've been very active in understanding a lot of this stuff, but we continue to either renovate or to remodel or to keep up and to purchase the newest and greatest pieces of equipment to maximize the efficiencies of personnel, but ultimately safety as well. And we're continuing to do this underneath the auspice of our budget and not continue to ask our community for referendum dollars. And as Randy asked or pointed out before, in a little bit we're going to ask our community again to put another $200,000 aside into Fund 41 so that would create about an $800,000 fund balance just for facilities going with Fund 46, which the board authorized last month too as well, I do believe, or a couple months ago. So a whole list of things. Energy savings, we continue to try to when we can. Got to spend money to save money, and we are continually seeing our energy bills in some of those other areas continue to go down based on some of those things that we're doing. Technology infrastructure, the bigger, stronger, faster mentality. Just keeping up and continuing to be innovative on that side. And then ultimately, how do you use technology and new equipment to maximize time, maximize resources? We just heard from Sarah regarding the state of the finances of the district, but wanted to highlight 2011, 750, and now we're approximately 2.4. Okay, and we're going to be, our surplus was a little higher, so we're going to be looking to control that fund balance. The board can take a look at and see what kind of fund, we have a fund balance policy, our fund balance policy that stays right around 20%. So the board has some flexibility if they wanted to take a look at the facility list or do a couple things to really maintain a strong accent on facilities and finances through our usage of fund balance. We know what we authorized the last couple of months in our fund balance purchases, but the big thing is the last 3 years proposed or flat decrease of the levy. Okay, some of that is of our control, hopefully. I like to think of a lot of it as property value too. But ultimately, we continue to offer a decreased levy given the facility finances that we certainly have, and the achievement continues to hopefully continue to increase. We talked about Fund 41, Fund 46, and one of the things that I'll talk about in a little bit is we are going to be debt-free coming up. And that's an opportunity and a challenge for the district at the same time. But we continue to try to think about how do we take care of our house without a referendum, And then ultimately, the other part, when we start talking about the human side of things, we continue to be very, very competitive in the area of compensation, benefits, and doing that in creative ways, whether that would be a matching program in 403B or considered a 401K of the public sector, or new health insurance changes, just switched health insurance companies as a co-op, which saved the district some dollars too as well. So we just continue to try to be as competitive as possible in a very competitive market of education. Workforce development. We are here, we do believe that we need to develop our teachers, our staff, to really truly continue to raise the achievement level of our kids. This past year, Google certification of all teaching staff. Teacher support, we added, obviously a couple years ago, we had literacy specialists. Now we've added a STEM and science and technology integration specialist too. Ongoing training in the area of literacy, math, leadership, science, the arts, etc. We continue to either bring opportunities for our staff or to allow them to seek opportunities outside of our four walls to be able to continue to engage kids. Last year, I know Dean joined us. We brought in Dave Burgess, who is the Teach Like a Pirate guy, a nationally known speaker, all about student engagement and how do you hook kids to ultimately, obviously, we want to raise the bar, but again, hopefully hook them and then move them up from that standpoint too as well. So Mustang University, where we offer a lot of professional development in-house, where our regional experts or local experts are allowed to discuss ways of either technology integration, reading strategies, readers workshop, and innovative thinking. We've got George Sucrose, the Innovator's Mindset, as well as the Growth and the Fixed Mindset books going on too, so some in-house book studies and professional development as well. So lots of things as we talk about how we develop our staff. As we think to 16-17, obviously we've got our work cut out for us. We're going to continue to do a ton of data analysis around what our individual learners are telling us, what our state assessment, what our MAPs, and what our F&P assessments tell us. A continued, as always, focus on mathematics and literacy, and how do we expand those into other content areas. Our science adoption, we spent significant time and resources ensuring that we infuse literacy into our entire K-8 science program. With social studies as well. This is an upcoming year. We have an ongoing pilot right now. We're working with National Geographic and some geography areas for 5th and 6th grade, and as well as 3rd grade, continuing to really revamp what they're doing. So next spring, the goal is to bring a brand new social studies curriculum to the board for approval through a collaborative teacher process as the year goes on. We talked about our new science curriculum. And ultimately, we've got the forward exam and a lot of data points to drive student learning, instruction, assessment, and curricular decisions as we move forward. And then ultimately, we've got financial planning and facility planning continuing to move forward based on some of the challenges that Sarah talked about and some of the things that we look forward to in the upcoming year. Challenges, declining enrollment, continued decrease of state funding, as well as rising property values. We're going to continue to get creative in how can we control the levy a little bit, because nobody likes to see a levy go up and down. How do you either steady it, control it as much as you can, and we've got some tools possibly that we'll bring to the Finance Committee to discuss that, see what we can do. Ultimately, we've got increased community needs. The mental health aspect of our community and our students continue to rise, and so we try to continue really to meet the social emotional needs of our students, as well as a lot of social emotional needs of our parents too, as we help them navigate this interesting world we live in too as well. Obviously, the state continues, and not so much on the feds, and obviously we've got an election, but the state, it's a new biennial budget, which always brings new laws, new proposals, new things that we're going to have to get ready for, either get ready for them or prepare just in case it happens. Because we hear all sorts of things coming out of Madison right around that November time when the budget starts to get crazy down at the Capitol. And then ultimately, we are here for preparing students for college and career readiness. We have standards that we set all the way down to 4K and 5K and 1 and all the way up. Those benchmarks are important because we want kids to hit those milestones so they stay on that trajectory. If they start to slow down, we take a look at how can we accelerate growth. How can we do that? We do that through interventions. Or if they continue to soar, how do we give them opportunities to personalize that environment to continue to enrich the opportunities in which we offer here at the Merton Community School District. And then Sarah's mentioned, and I've mentioned it before, we do have debt falling off the spring of 2018, which spring, it will fall, we will have a significant debt decrease. The board will have an opportunity at any time. The board can always borrow up to $1 million if there's a major facility need. Obviously, we've got tools with Fund 41, Fund 46, but that might also be an opportunity for the board to consider, hey, do you want the levy to drop 50 cents or 60 cents? Can't happen. But also, there might be an opportunity there, but also proposes a challenge to say, hey, where is the right balance? Do we do something now? Do we do it later? All sorts of things that we'll have to continue to plan for in the future as well. So basically, we know that we are using district resources to improve teaching and learning. That is what we're about. How do we improve teaching and learning? And all these things around there all go together. So whether it's finances, workforce development, fiscal, human capital, interventions, all the way from behavior, whatever it is, always moving forward to the center circle of using district resources to improve teaching and learning. As we know, our mission is to prepare all kids for a high level of learning going into Arrowhead. Our 4K is a class of 2027. Yikes. Yikes. Jobs that do not currently exist. Technology adaptations, what do our kids look like, and preparing instructors for increased engagement and personalized learning.